In the quiet corners of history, between the pages of textbooks and the grand narratives of conflict, lie the personal stories that truly define what war means to humanity. Today, we uncover one such story, that of Captain William "Will" Cooper, a man whose journey took him from the peaceful streets of Syracuse, New York, to the volcanic ash of Iwo Jima in 1945. Before the uniform, before the rank, before the war claimed him, Will Cooper was a man of simple pleasures and profound devotion. Born in 1908 to working-class parents, Will grew up during the optimism of the Roaring Twenties, only to witness the devastation of the Great Depression as a young man. His father, a carpenter, taught him the value of creating rather than destroying, a lesson that would shape his worldview, even as fate steered him toward battlefields. Will was not a man predisposed to violence. He studied architecture at Syracuse University, graduating in 1931 into a world of limited opportunities. Yet even in those difficult years, he found reasons for hope. In 1935, he met Catherine Sullivan, a kindergarten teacher, whose quiet strength and unwavering compassion matched his own. They married in 1936, and their daughter Anna was born the following year, a bright spot in a world increasingly darkened by the shadows of impending conflict. The Cooper family built a modest life in Syracuse. Will secured work with a local architecture firm, designing homes for families like his own. In the evenings, he would sketch designs at the kitchen table, while Catherine graded papers. Little Anna would sit between them, drawing her own creations with crayons that Will kept specially sharpened for her. On weekends, they would picnic by Onondaga Lake, Will teaching Anna how to skip stones across the water's surface, the ripples expanding outward like the love within their small family. December 7, 1941, the attack on Pearl Harbor, America's entry into World War II. The world tilted on its axis, and with it, the trajectory of Will Cooper's life. Though initially exempt from the draft due to his age and professional status, Will felt a growing sense of duty. By early 1943, as the war intensified, he could no longer stand aside. He enlisted in the Marine Corps, was recognized for his leadership qualities, and received an officer's commission after training. Catherine understood his decision, though it broke her heart. Anna, just 5 years old when her father departed for training, struggled to comprehend why Daddy had to leave. Their last day together as a family was spent at home. No grand gestures, no elaborate outings. They simply existed together in the comfortable silence of deep love, knowing that such ordinary moments would soon become precious memories. Captain Cooper was deployed to the Pacific Theater in 1944. He wrote home religiously, sending separate letters to Catherine and Anna. To his wife, he confided his fears and hopes for the future. To his daughter, he created elaborate adventure stories where Princess Anna always saved the day. He sent sketches with each letter, landscapes of distant islands, portraits of fellow Marines, and fanciful illustrations for Anna's stories. Catherine kept every drawing, every word, in anticipation of the day he would return to create new memories rather than preserve old ones. By February 1945, American forces were preparing for one of the war's most brutal engagements, the Battle of Iwo Jima. The island, though small, held strategic importance as a potential emergency landing strip for B-29 bombers and as a Japanese early warning station. Intelligence suggested the battle would last no more than a few days. This assessment would prove catastrophically optimistic. Captain William Cooper landed with the 4th Marine Division on February 19, 1945. What followed was hell on earth. A landscape of black volcanic ash, offering no cover, an enemy entrenched in an elaborate network of bunkers and tunnels, and a battle that would ultimately claim nearly 7,000 American lives and wound another 20,000. For 12 days, Captain Cooper led his men through this nightmarish terrain. Those who served under him would later recount his calm under fire, his unwavering focus on minimizing casualties, and his habit of carrying a small notebook where he would sketch during rare moments of quiet. Always images of home, of Syracuse, of the family waiting for his return. On March 3, 1945, during an attempt to secure a strategic position near the northern end of the island, Captain Cooper's unit came under heavy fire. Witnesses reported that he had moved forward to assist wounded Marines when a mortar round struck nearby. He was killed instantly. Among his personal effects recovered and eventually returned to his family was a blood-stained letter, unfinished, unsent, addressed to his daughter Anna, who had turned 8 just 2 weeks before her father's death. This letter, preserved by the Cooper family for generations, offers us a window into not just one man's final thoughts, but the universal experience of those torn from their loved ones by war. It speaks to us across decades about what truly matters when everything else falls away. What follows are the words of Captain William Cooper in his final letter to his daughter, words written with the knowledge that each day might be his last, though surely he hoped to deliver his message in person rather than have it serve as his epitaph.
My dearest Anna, it's late here on this strange island, and the sky looks nothing like the one above our home in Syracuse. The stars seem different, arranged in patterns I don't recognize, though I know they must be the same stars we used to count during our backyard camping adventures. Remember how we would make up new constellations? Anna's teddy bear and Daddy's silly hat. I've been looking for them here, but they must be hiding on the other side of the world, keeping watch over you instead. Today is March 3rd, which means you've been 8 years old for exactly 16 days now. I'm sorry I missed your birthday party. In my mind, I can see the cake your mother made. Chocolate with vanilla frosting, your favorite, and the blue dress you told me about in your last letter. I bet you looked like a princess, sweetheart. More regal than any crowned head in Europe. The other men in my unit think I'm the luckiest Marine on this island because I have your letters and drawings. I've taped your latest masterpiece, the one with our house and the 3 of us holding hands under a rainbow, to the inside of my helmet. The other officers tease me about it, but they're just jealous. Captain Rodriguez has started asking me to read your letters out loud during quiet moments. Your stories about Mr. Whiskers and your adventures at school make everyone smile, even on the hardest days. I won't tell you much about where I am or what I'm doing. This isn't a place for children, even in stories. Instead, I want to tell you about what I'm going to do when I come home. I've been making plans, Anna, wonderful plans. First, we're going to spend an entire day at Green Lakes State Park. We'll swim until our fingers get wrinkly, and then we'll have the picnic to end all picnics. Sandwiches cut into triangles. They taste better that way, as you always insist. Those oatmeal cookies your grandmother makes, and lemonade in the thermos with the broken handle. After lunch, I'll teach you how to fish properly. You're old enough now, and patient enough too, I think. Then, once summer arrives in full force, we'll take that trip to Niagara Falls I've been promising. Your mother thinks you're still too young to appreciate it, but I've told her you're the most appreciative 8-year-old in all of New York State. We'll wear those yellow raincoats and stand where the mist hits our faces, and I'll explain how I used to dream of designing bridges that could span such impossible distances. For your 9th birthday, I know it's a year away, but I like planning ahead. I'm going to build you that treehouse we sketched together last Christmas. I've been refining the design during quiet moments here. It will have windows on all sides, a proper shingled roof, and a secret compartment for your treasures. Every princess needs a castle, after all. Anna, there's something important I need to tell you. Something I should say more often. Something that doesn't fit neatly into the short V-mail forms, or get properly expressed in hasty letters written between missions. I love you in a way I never knew was possible before you were born. The moment the nurse placed you in my arms, this red-faced, squalling little bundle, the world shifted on its axis. Everything before you seems dim and incomplete in my memory. Everything after, illuminated by your presence. The men who haven't yet held their own children don't understand when I try to explain it. How can you miss someone so desperately, yet feel them with you every moment? How your tiny hand once wrapped around my finger, and somehow I became the one being held, anchored to what matters. How watching you sleep, your chest rising and falling, became the most profound meditation on life's fragility and beauty. I carry you with me, Anna, through everything. Your laugh echoes in my ear when things get too quiet. Your drawings decorate my dreams. Your future, bright, limitless, peaceful, is what we're fighting for, though I wish with everything in me that fighting wasn't necessary. There's a story my father told me when I was not much older than you are now. He said that love doesn't divide when shared among many. It multiplies. One person's love for another doesn't diminish what they have for someone else. It grows the total. I've thought about that often since becoming your father. My love for you doesn't take away from what I feel for your mother, or my parents, or even this troubled world we inhabit. Instead, loving you has expanded my heart's capacity. Because of you, I love everything more deeply. I need you to remember something, sweetheart. If there ever comes a day when I can't tell you these things in person, though I pray with every fiber of my being that won't happen, I need you to remember that you were loved perfectly. Not because I'm perfect, God knows I'm not, but because loving you has been the most perfect thing I've ever done or will ever do. Your mother tells me you've been helping her in the Victory Garden. Keep doing that. There's wisdom in coaxing life from soil, in nurturing something from seed to fruit. I think about our garden often here, where nothing seems to grow amidst the ash and destruction. When I close my eyes, I can smell the tomato plants, that green, vibrant scent that clings to your fingertips after pinching back the suckers. I have to finish this letter soon. Dawn comes early, and with it, duties I cannot postpone. But before I go, a few more things. Keep drawing. Those architect's hands you inherited deserve to create beautiful things. Be kind to your mother. She is stronger than either of us, but even the strongest people need gentleness. Learn everything you can. Education is the one thing no one can ever take from you. And most importantly, remember that the measure of a life well lived isn't found in grand accomplishments or recognized achievements. It's in small moments of connection, in choosing love over fear, in finding wonder in ordinary days. Anna, my sweet girl, I hold the thought of you like a talisman. Whatever happens in the days ahead, know that you have made my life incandescent with meaning. Every breath I've taken since you arrived has been infused with gratitude for the privilege of being your father. I will do everything in my power to come home to you and Mom. Everything. With all the love my heart can hold. Your dad, P.S. I found a tiny seashell yesterday, perfectly spiraled and iridescent inside. I'm keeping it safe in my pocket to bring home to you. It reminds me of that poem we read together, about how you can hear the ocean in a shell, no matter how far from the shore you might be. Listen closely, Anna, and you might hear me saying, I love you.
The letter you just heard never reached its intended recipient, at least not in the conventional sense. It was returned to Catherine Cooper, along with her husband's other personal effects. A blood-stained testimony to promises unfulfilled, future moments unlived. And yet, in another sense, perhaps its message arrived exactly where it needed to go. Anna Cooper Sullivan, named after her mother's maiden name, is now 88 years old. She has kept this letter for 8 decades, its paper grown fragile with time, its creases softened by countless readings. When we spoke with her for this documentary, she told us something profound. My father was both absent and present, throughout my entire life. This letter became his voice, speaking to me at different stages, saying different things as I grew old enough to understand them. As a child, she heard only the love and the promises of fishing trips and tree houses. As a teenager grappling with his absence, she found comfort in knowing how deeply she had been wanted. As a young mother herself, she suddenly understood the depth of his emotions when he described holding her for the first time. Now, in her twilight years, she finds herself contemplating the same fundamental truths he wrestled with in his final days. What gives life meaning? What remains when everything else falls away? Captain William Cooper's story is just one among millions from World War II. Nearly 407,000 American service members died during that conflict. Behind each of those numbers was a person with hopes, fears, loves, and plans for a future they would never see. For every soldier, sailor, or Marine who didn't return home, there were parents, siblings, spouses, children, entire constellations of relationships forever altered by absence. What can we learn from these fragments of interrupted lives? What wisdom might we glean from words written in desperate circumstances when pretense falls away and only essential truths remain? Perhaps the first lesson is about attention, the quality of our awareness. Notice how Captain Cooper's letter focuses not on grand achievements or material possessions, but on ordinary moments elevated by presence and love. Picnics with sandwiches cut into triangles, the scent of tomato plants, the perfect spiral of a tiny seashell. In a world increasingly defined by distraction, by the constant pull toward what's next rather than what's now, his words remind us that life occurs in the present tense, in seemingly unremarkable moments we too often fail to cherish until they're gone. There's a particular poignancy in how he describes the stars above Iwo Jima, arranged in patterns I don't recognize, though I know they must be the same stars we used to count during our backyard camping adventures. How often do we fail to recognize the familiar constants in our own lives, the blessings that remain steadfast even as circumstances change? The stars above us, the love within us, the capacity for wonder and connection, these endure, even when everything else seems foreign and frightening. Captain Cooper's reflections on fatherhood. How can you miss someone so desperately yet feel them with you every moment? Speak to the strange paradox of deep love. The more profoundly we love, the more vulnerable we become to loss. Yet that very vulnerability enriches our experience beyond measure. To love is to eventually grieve, but to avoid love for fear of grief is perhaps the only tragedy greater than loss itself. There is in this letter and countless others like it, an implicit invitation to reconsider what constitutes a life well lived. Our culture often celebrates longevity, accumulation, achievement, influence, measurable metrics of success. But what if we evaluated life differently? What if, as Captain Cooper suggests, the measure of a life well lived isn't found in grand accomplishments or recognized achievements, but in small moments of connection, in choosing love over fear, in finding wonder in ordinary days? By this measure, a life cut short may still be immeasurably rich. A 37-year-old architect turned Marine who never built great structures may nonetheless have constructed something far more enduring in the love he cultivated, the memories he created, the people he influenced. The currency of a meaningful life, perhaps, is not primarily time but presence, not how many years we accumulate, but how fully we inhabit the moments we're given. This perspective offers a particular comfort to those who have lost loved ones too soon. Anna Cooper Sullivan has lived 8 decades without her father's physical presence, yet in our conversation she observed, "He packed so much love into 8 years that it's sustained me for a lifetime." Some people have parents who live well into old age, but never truly see them. My father saw me completely in the brief time he had, and that has made all the difference. There is also, in Captain Cooper's final communication, a profound lesson about legacy. What ultimately remains of us after we're gone. Not our possessions or titles, not our accomplishments or failures, but the love we've expressed, the connections we've fostered, the examples we've set. William Cooper could not have known his unfinished letter would become his daughter's most treasured possession, that his words would continue speaking to her across decades, that strangers would one day be moved by his intimate expressions of love and hope. He simply spoke his truth as honestly as he could, in what turned out to be his final opportunity to do so. This raises an uncomfortable but essential question for each of us. If today were our last chance to communicate with those we love, what would we say? What matters enough to commit to paper, to voice, to memory? And perhaps more importantly, why wait for last chances? Why not speak these truths now while we still can? In an age of unprecedented connection technology, we often find ourselves paradoxically disconnected from meaningful engagement. We document moments rather than living them, share experiences for public consumption rather than private significance, accumulate digital interactions that sometimes substitute for deeper intimacy. Captain Cooper's letter, handwritten, thoughtful, unfiltered by algorithms or expectations, reminds us of communication's primary purpose, not performance or information transfer, but connection, witness, love. The Battle of Iwo Jima eventually ended on March 26, 1945, after 36 days of some of the fiercest fighting in the Pacific Theater. Of the approximately 70,000 American Marines who participated, 6,821 were killed and another 19,217 wounded. The island was secured at tremendous cost, its strategic value later questioned by military historians. The war itself would continue for another 5 months before Japan's surrender on August 15, 1945. These facts and figures, while historically significant, tell us little about what really happened on that volcanic island. For that, we need the letters, diaries, photographs, and memories of those who were there. The human dimension of history that transforms abstract statistics into stories we can understand and honor. Captain William Cooper's letter to his daughter offers us such a window, not just into one family's tragedy, but into the universal experience of love and loss, hope and fear, connection and separation. His words transcend the specific circumstances of his death, speaking to fundamental human experiences that cross boundaries of time, culture, and context. In sharing these intimate words, we are not merely remembering one Marine who fell at Iwo Jima. We are acknowledging something essential about our shared humanity, our capacity for deep love, our vulnerability to devastating loss, our resilience in the face of unimaginable hardship, and our enduring need for meaning and connection. Perhaps this is what Anna Cooper Sullivan meant when she told us, "My father's letter belongs to me, but its message belongs to everyone." In our divisive times when differences are often emphasized over commonalities, these echoes from the past remind us of what unites us across all boundaries: our capacity to love and be loved, to hope in darkness, to find meaning in both joy and suffering. Captain Cooper wrote to his daughter, "I need you to remember that you were loved perfectly." What greater gift could any of us give or receive? Not perfection in the conventional sense, flawlessness, absence of mistakes, but perfect in its completeness, its wholehearted authenticity, its recognition of another soul in all its uniqueness and worth. In the end, this may be the most profound legacy of all those who have been taken too soon, whether by war, disease, accident, or other tragedy. They remind us, through their abbreviated lives and final words, of what matters most while we still have time to embrace it. Today, as we conclude this journey through one family's experience of war and loss, remembrance and resilience, we invite you to consider your own priorities, connections, and expressions of love. Captain William Cooper's final letter to his daughter stands as both a personal artifact and a universal invitation to love without reservation, to notice the everyday wonders we too often overlook, and to speak our truths while we still have breath to do so. For in the end, as Captain Cooper understood even as his own life drew to its premature close, it is not the length of our days, but their depth that truly matters. Not how long we live, but how well we love.